Welcome to another chapter of the Tao Te Ching. We're moving on to 25. The title of this is I Call It Tao. And this verse is really going to look at Tao as the underlying nature of all things and how we are connected to all things and how we are part of, we and all things are part of, the nature of everything and how we can be here in collaboration with Tao and we can live our lives fully and be fulfilled within that. So let's look at number 25. I call it Tao. Before the manifestation of heaven, there is void. It is still and has no form. Inexhaustible, it reaches everywhere. It is at the core of everything. Since names became important, it has been called Tao. It flows among manifestation without resistance, inside, outside, conscious and subconscious. Tao is great, universes are great, planets are great, beings are great. These four are all great and follow the law of their principle. All beings follow their planet, planets follow their universe, universes follow Tao. Tao follows only its nature. So this starts, like there's always this paradox when we start talking about the Tao Te Ching and the Tao in general. What we get ourselves into is this, I can't talk about it because it's unfathomable. But because manifestation is so strong, I feel the need to be able to talk about it. And so I have to utilize words to describe it. And that's why in the beginning here, we have this line, before the manifestation, there is void. When I was translating that, it was always very much about like, we need to keep in question time. We can't just allow ourselves to take time as a thing that we experience, because time is a construct, right? Like we have this experience of that time is linear, but time could just exist now and that's it, right? And our brains could be just full of memories and thoughts that we have acquired before, but there's not necessarily a way of proving there was a before. Right. So when I was looking at this, like before the manifestation of heaven, there is void. And the idea of that, the idea of using is instead of was, even though this is, utilizing the word before, right? It is still and has no form. It is still and has no form. Even though we are beyond that moment in the manifestation, right? In the manifestation, we appear to be beyond the moment that heaven wasn't yet created. And yet, because time doesn't exist, we're not. And so this is the paradox of being able to talk about Tao. We can't really talk about it because words mean things and we all kind of carry all of that with us. And so it's important to recognize, and that's why these first lines, we present those sort of questions, right? Before the manifestation of heaven, there is void. It is still and has no form. And this is all about like being and non-being and past and present and the experience of that and all of these things. Inexhaustible, it reaches everywhere. It is the core of everything. Since names became important, it has been called Tao. So we question time. And then we go ahead and start kind of understanding like, look, names aren't important, but since they became important, and how do we know that names aren't important? Because it has a beginning, right? So there is a point in the manifestation, right? So now we're talking about time again. Since names became important, that means we're recognizing time. Time doesn't exist. So we're recognizing something that doesn't exist. And we're having this experience in manifestation where names don't exist, and yet we pretend that they do. This is the thing. There is this underlying nature of everything, the underlying nature of all things. That's what's important. And that's what we're putting a name on. And we're putting that name, and that name that we're putting on it at some point in history, right? Like at some point in the history of manifestation, we put the name Tao on it. And so it has been called Tao. It flows among manifestation without resistance. So manifestation, like, it has no resistance to how we want to experience this. It doesn't care. You know, I've said that many, many times. Like, Tao doesn't care. Nature doesn't care. You shouldn't care. You shouldn't care that you're going to die. You shouldn't care that, you know, like, the world is falling apart. You shouldn't care. Like, of course you do. And when you do, you recognize that within yourself, and you grow, and you get closer to who you are. You get closer to the underlying nature of everything. Right? So it flows among manifestation without resistance. It doesn't care. Inside, outside, conscious, subconscious. So it's part of you, no matter what. It is part of your subconscious. It's part of your conscious. You can't do anything without it. You have never done anything without it. You have only told a story to yourself that maybe you have done things without it. Then we have the four great things, right? Tao is great. Universes are great. Planets are great. Beings are great. Like, all of those things are great, and they're within the manifestation. You know, Tao isn't, but like, universes follow the nature of Tao, right? Follow the underlying nature of the universe, of Tao. The underlying nature, the planets follow their underlying nature, and beings follow their underlying nature. These four are all great and follow the law of their principle. And we get into that in other verses, the idea that beings follow the planet, planets follow the universe follows Tao. And that's what's expressed here as well. All beings follow their planet. If you didn't follow your planet, and it's not just your planet, right? Your planet, which is part of your solar system, which is part, right? Which is why we look at stars, and we look at, you know, Saturn, and we look at the sun, and we look at the moon, and we have all of these things, right? We follow their principle. Like, all of that astrology stuff, all of the stories, all of the, you know, myths that we have, all of that has been created because we have witnessed space, and we have witnessed on the planet. All of the things that we do are because we have embraced manifestation on this planet. And that's beautiful. And we learn about ourselves, and we learn about who we are as individuals and as a group, and all of that kind of stuff. Planets follow their universe, and the planet following the universe and their solar systems and their experience, like, in space, is what we as beings who are following our planet get to observe. Right? And then the universe, filled with all of its emptiness, follows Tao. And there is an underlying nature of all that. It doesn't have a time. It's not linear. It's just happening. And Tao follows only its nature. And its nature is to penetrate all things. And it's the great mother, you know, it's birthed all things. And that's an important aspect. And we're sitting here, we're trying to identify it in our little sort of experience. In our little experience on this planet, like, we're trying to understand Tao. Like, we can't even understand our experience here. And so that's where it's like, you know, like, this is why we want to surrender to Tao, right? Because we are confused because we're having the experience of manifestation. And then we want to talk about it, and we want to express it, and we want to understand it, and we really kind of hedge our bets on it. And it's like, oh man, we are getting so lost, right? We're lost because we're not present. We're always trying to get to the next place. We want to know more. We want to do more. We want to heal ourselves. We want to spiritually awaken, and all of these other fucking things. And it's just like, you know, you're living your life right now. Like, just observe it. That's all you can do. You don't have to understand it. There's nothing to understand. You know, you can be guided by Tao, and that might be the desire to understand. But that doesn't have to be for everybody, right? And that doesn't, like, your experience is yours. And when you can follow your natural inclinations, and when you can trust yourself rather than looking for answers in the manifestation outside of yourself, rather trying to find facts and proof and truth, you just live. You just allow yourself to be here and follow that which you want. and it's not even what you want. Do what you need to do. Give up what you want. You don't need to want anything. You are being held. You're being held by the nature of all things. And Tao is within you, flows all around you. And yeah. So that is 25. I call it Tao. Thank you so much for joining me for another chapter of the Tao Te Ching. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.